Oozing from the inky blackness of night arises a grotesque figure from the bowels of hell. Run! Run! I'm Kamala Harris, and I approve of this message.
Be good humans, be good humans, be good humans, or we will think you suck. Be good humans, be good humans, be good humans, or we will think you suck.
Happy Halloween season, everyone.
Ooh, look, we've got decor and everything.
Welcome to the Be Good Humans podcast. I'm Brian Phelps, and that there is the incomparable Trey Calloway.
It is such a spooky pleasure to be here with you, my friend.
Yeah.
And with all of you as well. And thank you, by the way. We've been getting so much incredible stuff through the Be Good Humans podcast website. You're telling us about all kinds of amazing humans in your lives. Keep doing that, please, and follow us on the socials and like and subscribe and follow and all those scary things.
We're very excited about today's show. Our guest, which we're not even going to tell you who it is until it's time for you to know. But we will begin, since it is the Halloween season.
Yes.
Scary things. What scared you when you were a little kid? Did you have a main...
Yeah, I mean, look, I've never been a fan of jump scares since I was a kid. Like anybody, like, you know, the uncle would be like, boom, and so last year, I think for the first time, I went to one of those Universal Halloween, horror nights or whatever, and I just got pissed. As the night went on, I just wanted to punch people like that. I don't like that. And then I have this weird fear of, like, maybe it goes back to Jaws when we were kids, but like underwater.
Maybe it goes back to you being a bedwetter.
Oh, well, thanks for bringing that up.
When you were little.
Yeah, okay. So clearly that's the source of it. But like underwater, like I feel like I'm out of my element. I don't belong there. Creepy things are going to come up behind me. I don't like that. All right. What about you?
For me, there's one thing that affected me so much as a kid. When I live, as you know, in a very, very old house. It was ancient. Right. And we had a very, very old ancient furnace down in the basement.
Oh, say no more.
Now, this isn't a finished basement. There's no ping pong table or pool table or television or carpeting or paneling. This was dirt walls, brick floor, and in the far back in the corner was this furnace. And when I was 8 years old, that's when Dad deemed me old enough to have a chore, a big boy chore every night.
That is a big boy chore.
Yeah. And let me tell you, there was a light at the top of the stairs and a light over by the furnace. So, and this was, we're talking about 40 yards.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so I had to get from one place to the other and flick that light on. But at 8 years old, I go downstairs dreading this. And I'm supposed to pour water in this reservoir for the old furnace. I think it was like a humidifier or something. So I had to do this every night. The worst part was I'm done. I'm still, looking over my shoulder. I'm freaking out every night. This was every night. Yeah. I have to turn off the light and then I have to run 30 yards, 40, however long it was, over to the stairs where there's light. So I am booking. I'm just, and I'm in my mind, I'm imagining all these things that are chasing me, and for real, are chasing me for real.
Of course.
I'm booking up the stairs as a little 8-year-old can, as fast as I can. And in my mind, I see monster arms about to grab me and pull me back down. So that I was so frightened of that.
Well, first of all, I'm sorry, but second, thank you for this story, because I am now going to write the major motion picture 40 Yards of Fear. That is 100% going to happen. But speaking of movies then, okay, let's talk about that. Like, what are some of your favorite scary movies that just, you're the go-to?
The favorite scary movies? I love scary movies, adore them up until they stopped making the original Frankensteins and, Bela Lugosi, Wolfman, and Dracula. I could do those because I was raised every Saturday night with a creature feature. I didn't know if you had anything like this, but it was a guy that would come on at midnight to show Dracula or to show Wolfman, the originals.
Yeah, the old stuff.
There wasn't any gore. There wasn't. It was fun. It was. Plus, this comical guy, Chuck Acree, would come on during the commercials and sell siding. You put on the side of your house, he would sell siding. So there was just a whole joyful thing about these movies. But then I get a little older, and then all my friends are now watching the gory. I can't. Here's my thing. It boils down to this: is why I cannot stand horror films.
Okay.
I hate the gore because I hate the human suffering.
Sure.
I mean, I can't take that.
Yeah.
There's something inside me, and I can tell you this: my father was the same way, or maybe I'm the same as him.
Okay. How so?
Well, when I was 14, The Exorcist had just come out in theaters, it's everybody's talking about it.
Sure.
My dad hates these kind of movies, as I do. My mother loves them. So my mother, I don't know how she did it, but she finally talked him in to kicking and screaming, taking her to the theater to see The Exorcist.
Oh boy.
This is a true story, by the way. Now, by the time they got home from the theater, seeing The Exorcist, I was already in bed, sound asleep. I'm 14 years old, sound asleep.
Okay.
About 2:33 in the morning, I hear coming from downstairs my father standing there, because my bedroom is right above their bedroom.
Okay.
And I hear my father waking me up going, Brian! Brian! And I'm like, yeah? He goes, stop moving around up there. Get back in bed.
No.
And Dad, I was in bed. I was sleeping.
Yeah.
And he goes, oh. All right. Well, good night.
Guess I got Linda Blair in my head.
Oh my God. So he told me the next morning that he didn't get a wink of sleep that night. And that movie affected him so much that he was hearing every creak, every whatever sounded like footsteps. I mean, that you've seen it. And, I haven't seen it. I've seen clips, but of course.
But apparently, by extension, you inherited his fear, right?
Anything dealing with that kind of stuff, it's
weird, right? Like I can fake it. I faked it lots of times. I've written horror films. I've worked on crime shows where like it used to be my job on CSI to unzip a body bag literally and look at like whatever fake body was going to be on the table. I have no problem with the fake stuff, but like, man, one of my kids skins their knee and I'm like, oh!
Are you really?
Yeah, like I can't handle if it's real, but the fake stuff is, Exorcist I'm actually a fan of, although I have an argument with my sons over, they don't think that's scary. They have a new definition of what is scary, but that still scares me. The Omen, which my father-in-law produced, I can never get enough of that movie. The Shining, of course. And then there's a very obscure Dutch film from the 80s called The Vanishing, which I think might be the most frightening film I've ever seen. This is a couple who wind up getting buried alive. Like it's very scary.
Do you remember when Jaws came out?
Yeah.
Okay, I was 16 years old, and all my friends now know my hatred for gore, for horror.
Yes.
They had seen the movie in the theater. They had gone, and they somehow peer pressured me, of course, into going to see the movie with them.
Okay.
I hated the ride into Moline. It's about a 30-minute drive to go to the cinemas. I hated, so I'm sitting there 2 minutes before the movie starts, and Dan is on my left side, and there's about 5 of us sitting in a row. And I said, Dan, what am I doing here? I'm going to hate this.
Yeah.
I'm dreading this.
Of course.
I want to go. He goes, no, Brian, it's great. So the movie starts, and sure enough, the first gory thing that does happen, I'm like this, or I'm closing my eyes, or I'm looking away, and they're all laughing and laughing and laughing. Now, it gets to the point in the movie where I think it was Dreyfus that was scuba diving, and he comes up on this wrecked boat, and there is a hole in the boat, the bottom of the boat, and without any warning, at all, a severed head, comes out of the hole.
Yes, it's one of the best jump scares in Hollywood history.
Okay, well, this is what happened. The first thing, or the thing I hear first, after that scene was this: Dan saying, Brian. And I'm like, what? And he goes, sit down. This is a true story. It just lifted me out of my seat, I guess, and I was like, oh, Okay.
It's terrifying.
Not
It's terrifying.
Let's watch a comedy. Maybe a rom-com.
Yeah.
Let's do that.
Yeah. I will also say that some of the most satisfying horror I've enjoyed as a viewer was on television, right? Small screen horror. When I was a kid, my mom used to watch the old soap opera Dark Shadows with Barnabas Collins.
I did too. We'd race home to see Dark Shadows.
Night Gallery.
No gore, by the way.
Yeah, that's true. No gore. But, probably one of my all-time favorite horror series is one that I actually got to write for. But to tell you the full story so that you can appreciate it, I got to go back to high school for a minute. Okay. All right. So
I'm intrigued.
So I grew up in Tulsa, and Tulsa's one of those places where certainly at the time, like you could have a shopping mall on one corner and then cattle grazing on the other, right? It's just collision between rural and urban life, right? And so being a teenage boys in Tulsa, there's not a lot to do. So what you're basically doing is trying to figure out how to get into trouble. So one particular Saturday, some friends and I are out driving, and one of us had a license at least, and we see what looks to be an old, overgrown driveway that goes into the woods. And so we don't know where it leads. So we're curious. And so we get out of the car, we walk up this old overgrown driveway, and we find an abandoned house. Just sitting in the middle of the woods. Couldn't look creepier from the outside. Of course, we got to go in. So we go in, and
this is already a cheesy horror movie.
Right. So the windows are broken. It has weird, for some reasons, a red painted ceiling with black beams. It's half already set decked for like this just complete horror movie, like you said. So we decide in the moment, like teenage boys would do, let's do a little bit of work here today and make this look like a house of satanic worship. So because we've all watched too many horror films, right? And so first thing we do, we get some paint. We paint a pentagram on the floor. We get some candles. One of the guys worked at Pier 1, so we get some cheap candles. We melt them down onto the points of the star.
Right about here, if I was your friend in that group of guys, I got to go.
Yeah, you would have left.
I'm leaving.
You would have left.
I told Mom I'd be home.
You totally would have left.
No.
You'll see where your part comes in, by the way. So we do the pentagram. We find an old work table behind the house. It's long. We pull it into the living room. We get some cheap chain from a Home Depot. We nail it to the corner so it looks like someone's been restrained on the table. We pour a bunch of high C punch in the middle of it so it looks like dried blood. Like we totally set deck this. And the last important detail is I had just gotten a Blue Oyster Cult record. I'm burning, burning for you. And it had occult symbols on it. I didn't know what they meant, but I just literally brought in my Blue Oyster Cult record and I copied these occult symbols on the wall with spray paint, right? Finished. We go to the local convenience store where all the kids hang out on a Saturday night, and all we had to do was start in conversation dropping little nuggets like, did you guys hear about this devil house out on 111th and Yale?
Oh, I love it.
And so it starts to spread like wildfire, right? For the next 2 years, Brian. Every weekend, kids from not just our school, every school across Tulsa, they're all going to the Devil House. And the best part of this is they're coming back with these horror stories of, I saw a six-eyed goat. Right. I saw a dead man floating in the pool. I saw and their fears are running away with themselves, right? I am talking about this one day in the high school newspaper class, and in walks Miss Purinton, who's the teacher and the editor of the paper. And she's like, are you talking about the Devil House? And I go, yeah. She says, I've been hearing about this too. You seem to know a lot about it. Why don't you write a story for the school newspaper? So now I've not only created a fake Devil House, I then write a fake article in the school paper about the Devil House. Cut to many years later, I'm living here in LA. I have a meeting with a guy named Eric Kripke. Kripke is best known right now as the creator of the hit series on Amazon, The Boys.
I like the first season.
Oh, no, it's incredible. But he's created many series. I worked on Revolution with Eric Kripke. But his first great claim to fame was creating the television series Supernatural, right? So in case you somehow impossibly managed to miss this show, it was an extremely successful TV series, 15 seasons. It ran between the WB and the CW network, and it was basically about two brothers played by Jared Padalecki and Jensen Ackles, the Winchester brothers, right? These are two brothers who travel the country hunting demons and ghosts and monsters and all kinds of supernatural
things. As you do.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
So I have this meeting with Eric Kripke during the first season of Supernatural, and I come in with pitches, and I'm ready to sort of talk about, and he says, I don't want to hear your pitches. Just tell me a scary story. So I tell him the story of creating the Devil House as a teenager, and he goes, oh my God, we have to do this as an episode.
Okay.
So I now have not only created the Devil House as a teenager and written a bogus article in the school paper, but then cut to, I write an episode It's episode 16 of first season of Supernatural called Hell House,
Oh,
which
I'm
is about a
seeing
bunch
this.
of kids who prank their friends into believing there's a devil house. But of course, the more people who believe in it, the more the supernatural power becomes real.
Right.
So all of that to say, like, this was
Did you ever share? Sorry, but did you ever share with any of the people that were sharing and creating these urban myths?
Yes.
And like, oh, and by the way, we did that. My buddies and I did that. Did you ever share it?
A little bit later, because we had a Brian in our bunch who was our first test friend.
Oh, jeez.
And we poor Brian, I mean, James is his name. We brought him out and just scared the bejesus out of him. And like, he was not happy with us for a long time.
Oh, you little shits.
I know, but then we kept it to ourselves for a long time. But here's the reason why I think this is appropriate to talk about, because when we come back, Brian.
When we come back, we're going to chat with one of the most beloved actors from Supernatural, a guy who's created something magnificent, and it continues to help people in a plethora of amazing ways. And hey, get this. He is the first guest we've ever had that has his own army.
Oh, wow.
I'll explain later when we get. Don't go away. You're not going to want to miss this. This guy is so cool.
Be good humans, be good humans, be good humans, or we will think you suck.
Welcome back to Be Good Humans. Listen, Misha Collins is an extraordinarily gifted and frankly unstoppably determined actor and director and producer and poet and best-selling author and activist and humanitarian. And he's got this incredibly deep list of impressive credits that include NYPD Blue and CSI, ER, Monk, Charmed, 24, Girl Interrupted, Timeless, Gotham Knights, and get this, 12, count them, 12 unforgettable seasons where he is probably best known and truly beloved by its passionate fan base for playing the spellbinding role of Castiel, the Dark Angel, on probably umpteen thousand episodes of the series, you guessed it, Supernatural. Misha Collins, you frighteningly talented bastard. Welcome to Be Good Humans.
Misha.
Thank you for having me here, and thank you for characterizing me as an unstoppable and determined actor, because that conjures up an image of somebody who's like absolutely insistent on being cast in something, whether or not anyone wants him to be. And I feel like that is how I have built my career. So thank you. It was fun listening to you guys talk about, it's not what I expected I was signing up for here with the Be Good Humans podcast, but childhood traumas in the form of various different supernatural terrors. That was really nice to hear.
Good.
It got me reflecting on some of mine. When I was the first movie I remember seeing in a theater was when I was 6 years old. My dad took me to see Invasion of Body Snatchers.
Sure. Donald Sutherland.
really, really caused some permanent psychic scarring there. It was super difficult.
Wow. Yeah, that's big. That's big.
So
to do
I have always been absolutely terrified of scary things on screen. I can't.
Interesting.
I'm astonished, Trey, that you are able to delve into that world in your imagination and not actually just wind up quivering in a ball in the corner.
Yeah, as I would be if I were James.
You've written some kind of iconic horror movies.
Well, yeah, but here's the thing. Like I said, as long as it's fake, I'm good. Like it gives me a feeling of control over it, maybe.
Yeah.
And I think that's a lot of what draws people to horror.
I guess that sort of makes sense. Like on set of Supernatural, I never got scared on set.
Okay.
Right? When you see the seams, when you know what's happening, it's fine. But when I was prepping for my role on Supernatural, I was trying to watch Supernatural to catch up. Supernatural is not even scary in the scheme of things.
Yeah.
But if I watched more than one episode in an evening, I would have nightmares.
Yeah.
Parse it out in small doses in order to not go down a rabbit hole.
That's incredible. So as a kid, you get dragged into that kind of a terrifying movie. I still get haunted by Donald Sutherland in Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
But other than movies, what were some of the things that you were afraid of when you were a little kid? What scared you?
We lived on a river, and we had a dog named Bear, who was this sweet black lab, and he loved fetching sticks. And I used to throw this stick into the river, and Bear would then run and grab the stick out of the water and come back. One time when I was probably, again, about 6, I threw the stick in the water, and he ran into the water and came back. But as he was emerging along the shore, coming out of the river, he had turned into a giant black big bird. And he was about 10 feet tall. It looked exactly like Big Bird, except for all black. And I was absolutely terrified of my dog from that point forward, because I never knew when he might turn into Big Bird. And I went to school and I told everybody about it. And then I moved to a new school the next year, and I told everybody what had happened with my dog there. And I didn't have, I couldn't figure this out, but I didn't really have any friends. And then I went to a new school again for the next year and told everybody. And as I was telling them what happened to my dog, it suddenly dawned on me, oh shit, that was a dream, wasn't it? But it took me years to figure it out that I had been afraid of my dog. The dog that, by the way, was still living with us.
Yeah.
But every time we walked in the room, I'd be like, oh, there's something wrong with that animal.
Wow.
It took me years to figure out that I had dreamed it. And when I did, it was an amazing epiphany.
That just totally gave me the creeps, man.
Another script.
Yeah, exactly. I got 2 movies out of this show so far. That's incredible.
Misha, listen, I'd be hard pressed to think of anyone who's living their best life better than you.
Yeah, man.
And we're gonna get into all that in a second. And I've been really looking forward to speaking with you. But I just wanted to ask. Now, you went to University of Chicago and you majored in social theory. Most successful, highly successful actors major in acting, but you did social theory. What brought you to social theory, and more importantly, what is social theory?
Well, I would love to have an answer to the second question. I've been trying to get to the bottom of that my whole adult life, but I thought I was going to go into politics, and my expectation of myself was that I would be going to law school after college, and I went and interned at the White House and briefly worked at National Public Radio.
That's right. During the Clinton administration, I think.
That's right. Mm-hmm. And I became disillusioned in that process with the political infrastructure that I was looking at, and thought, I don't think I want to go about this in that normal way. If I want to get involved in politics, this betrays how full of hubris and a megalomaniacal ego I have. But I thought, I know what I'll do. I'll do like what Ronald Reagan did. I'll get famous, and then I'll use that to have a positive impact in the world, rather than doing this whole like internships and law school and LSATs and garbage like that. I'll just skip to the end, and so I went to. So I left the nepotistic and self-serving world of Washington, D.C. and went to Hollywood, where everyone has integrity.
Yes.
And then it didn't happen like I thought. I thought it was going to be just right away. Everybody was going to, turn me into the next Leonardo DiCaprio. And it took years for me to even really make a steady income. And, eventually I lost sight of that bigger picture goal and just focused on my career as an actor. As you mentioned in the introduction, my determination and insistence on being cast eventually paid off. And then it was actually Supernatural, where there was this ardent fan base, and I saw all of this. We would go to these fan conventions for Supernatural. Supernatural had these fan conventions, and I saw people were pouring all of this energy into the work of being a fan, and it would come out in these really artistic manifestations. People were writing fan fiction. people were creating beautiful drawings. Somebody brought up a needlepoint portrait of my face that was almost photorealistic on a pillow. And I was like, how long did that take?
Yeah.
And she said, oh, I don't know, probably about 1,000 hours.
And you're like, I didn't even work that long on the show.
Right. And it occurred to me, like, there's all this creative energy that's being focused into the actual work of being a fan of this show. And I started thinking about how we might redirect some of that energy toward collective action that was of a positive benefit of some sort.
Yeah.
And I had a couple of little touchstones along the way where after the earthquake in Haiti, I posted a link to a UNICEF page. This was shortly after Twitter had even been birthed into the world. I had a modest following there, like everyone did at that time. And I posted this link to a UNICEF fundraising page and woke up the next morning to see that, oh my gosh, we've raised $30,000.
Incredible.
And that was a little aha moment for me, thinking, okay, actually, it seems like this community is actually looking for direction in this department.
Right.
And then I sort of embarked on this interesting kind of collaborative relationship with the fandom where we were co-creating both, I think, some conventional, what would be characterized as charitable works. Like that first fundraiser then led into starting a nonprofit and actually building a pretty large orphanage in Haiti.
Right.
But an interplay with the fandom where we were actually trying to find ways to do something I called gamifying good. So we were actually trying to find ways to have fun in the world and be adventurous and be irreverent, but at the same time, find ways for those things to actually have a positive impact. I mean, I think actually those things of themselves are inherently beneficial.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But they can also mobilize more resources to genuinely help people who are in need.
In my head, you're the first to do this, to have that conscious thought of putting fun into this and challenging and maybe a little irreverent and all for the good.
Yeah.
And that brings us to your foundation, well, one of them, but the reason you're here is your foundation, Random Acts. Now, before we explain what this is, I'd love you to share. I saw an interview with you, and you said Random Acts was inspired by what you called your own childhood baggage. You have a vivid childhood memory that had a profound impact on you. Could you share that?
Well, it's funny because I don't actually know which one you're talking about, but I have a few of them. One that I have cited in the past, I'm actually going to mention two because I think that they're both relevant. But one that I cited in the past was we were really poor when I was a kid, and we were, at times homeless, and at times, scraping by on welfare, and a kid in my first grade class. His mom saw that my mom really didn't have any money and gave her $100 to buy us Christmas presents that year. And we would not have had a Christmas with any meaningful gifts were it not for that kid's mom. And that just stuck with me for the rest of my life. I was like, that was for her a relatively, I mean, it's a very generous act, but it's a relatively small act. And yet here I was 30 years later thinking about starting a nonprofit and thinking about that act, like that one act still was lingering with me and percolating and making me think about how I could have, how I could pay that forward somehow. But there was another thing that is coming to mind for some reason. When I was 5, my mother had a friend who was he had a really tough life, and his job he was one of those guys that picked up garbage on the side of the road, and he had one of those little spears that used to stab the garbage and put it in the bag. Yeah. And it was my 5th birthday, and he drew this little card in watercolor. It was just about this big, and it was just a picture. It was almost looked like Paddington. It was a little picture of him with his raincoat on and his yellow slicker, and he was poking garbage, and it said, "I didn't mind working in the rain today because it's Misha's birthday." This is a guy that was not even a close family friend.
Wow.
It was just this sweet little message.
Right.
And our house burned down when I was 17 years old.
Wow.
And I kid you not, of everything I owned, I was like, oh no, that card.
Oh,
That
really?
card I had kept on the wall in my room. And it was just like this constant companion.
Sure.
And it was this tiny little gesture of kindness and attention, like a kind of in the realm of what you would expect from a Mr. Rogers in the world, right? That had buoyed me throughout my entire childhood, adolescence, and into my teen years.
Yeah.
And I'm still talking about it now.
Yeah.
And that just for me, those little reminders of how being thoughtful and attentive to other people can actually have a lingering impact for the rest of their lives. It is not something that I manage to carry out in my daily life on a regular basis, on a consistent basis. But I keep trying to remind myself to be like that in the world.
Those small moments, those small acts just have a profound, lasting impact. So you carry those with you. Then, like you say, you begin to realize and recognize the power of, fandom and those groups that are so loyal and supportive and loving when it comes to the shows, the art that we try to create. And then on top of that comes this 2010 Haiti earthquake. So Random Acts is born as a charitable organization, but at this point, like, it's grown into this global organization. It's run by more than 150 plus volunteer staff.
All volunteers. It's
all
volunteer
volunteers,
run.
Millions of supporters from all walks of life. All kinds of annual events and stuff that happen. Like, how do you? This is a lot, man. This is a lot to carry, but it must still continue to feed your soul in the same way that drawing from a guy once did.
Well, it does, and I really can't take credit for it. I have found collaborators who have carried the torch. I wouldn't be able to keep doing that because I have other work that I engage in, and I'm raising 2 kids, and in the process of blending a family with even more kids. So I am still very much involved in Random Acts, and I'm president of the board of Random Acts. But we have an incredible director, Rachel Miner, who was actually also an actress. She was on Supernatural, and she has now full-time committed herself to the work of running Random Acts as a volunteer.
I mean, they funded almost 600 different acts of kindness last year alone.
Yeah. He's got, I mentioned his own army.
Yeah.
His army is called Army of Good. They call themselves that. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Because they all see that vision. That way, hey, let's experiment with something. Let's do charity work. Let's raise money for people and organizations that need it, but let's try to find a game way of doing it. Play games, and it's not just Random Acts. There are others, foundations that you've started, and one of my
I sorry to interrupt you, but I wanted to just say something. It's also not, I would say, not necessarily just about creating a game aspect, although that is part of it, and that has been integral over the years. Yeah, but it's chiefly participatory. Yeah, and getting people to see that they have agency and they can participate in these things. And not only that, I'm really interested in dispelling the notion that it's a one-way transaction. I think a lot of times, when you go onto a website and you click a donate button, it really does feel one way. I mean, I guess in reciprocity there, you do get a little jolt of a good feeling having donated some money. But when you actually participate in something, you're changed by that process too. Yeah. I'm going back to that Haiti project because it was the first international thing that we did. I did something called I guess it's called voluntourism.
Mm.
But basically, I was trying to figure out how to raise enough money because we needed hundreds of thousands of dollars for this project. And I thought, all right, well, maybe we'll get people to, I got all these fans that come to fan conventions. Maybe I'll say, like, if you want to come with me to Haiti to help build this orphanage, you got to figure out how to raise $5,000 to come on a trip. And we got the maximum number of people that we could, accommodate doing that, and raised a bunch of money and did several trips over the course of several years.
Incredible.
But the people that went on these trips went thinking, I am a relatively well-off American who's going down to this destitute country of Haiti to try to help people who need my help. And it was, I would say, it was maybe a larger share of the people who went on the trip who were changed by the experience than the people whom we were trying to help.
Really?
The people who joined me on the trip, a lot of the people ended up staying on for several months in Haiti or quitting their jobs and moving back, moving into a different field altogether. It was a really eye-opening experience. And I think that's a big part of this kind of work is if you're actually open to it and actually receptive, then it actually has a chance to penetrate you and change you.
That participatory aspect, I mean, all of a sudden you've got direct skin in the game. Like you're seeing it, you're feeling it, you're experiencing it.
And you like the feeling.
Yeah.
It almost becomes a drug.
Yeah.
Can I turn that interview lens on you guys for a second? What was your impetus for starting this particular podcast? Because I actually don't know your origin story.
Well, we just want to have an army like you. So that's really what we're trying. That's what we're working toward, right, Brian? No, we've been friends for a long, long time. And as we have said in previous episodes, for 25 years, Brian is a LA radio legend, was half of an extraordinary team, morning team on the radio here in LA, but also syndicated around the world and had his own series on NBC and a star on the Walk of Fame and is in the Radio Hall of Fame. So he's a legend. I'm just a schmuck, but he's a legend. But for 25 years, he would say to his listeners all around the world, he would sign off by saying, "Be good humans," and that's at the heart of our friendship, frankly. But our dedication to this project is like let's the world gets kind of ugly around, and so let's try to shine a light on the people who are trying to make a positive difference.
And kind of like part of what you've been doing in your concept is it was an experiment for us to make sure it wasn't maudlin or it wasn't saccharine, but we had yucks, we had fun, we had energy, and where let's find out if this can actually happen.
Yeah,
this is possible.
Let's lift some people up. So we feel like kindred spirits, and that's why like the minute our mutual friend Eric Kripke told me about Random Acts, I was like, it
fits right in.
Why wouldn't we want him on this show?
And what the angle of Random Acts?
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly right.
I'm talking to Eric in an hour. We're conspiring on another project.
Well, tell him thank you for turning us on to you.
No, fantastic.
Just to talk about some of the fun you've had, and I'm going to mispronounce this. And we have been arguing for, I don't know, a day and a half. He thinks he knows. I think I know.
It's by design, dude. He did it. I didn't.
I'm going to say, and I want to, the reason why I'm bringing this up is because it makes me happy to read some of the things that you've done. That your followers, the people involved have done.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to call it Gishwas.
Gishwas.
What did you call it?
Gishwas, I think.
Gishwish?
Yeah, I mean, I put a little bit more of a wez at the end than a whoosh.
Gishwas.
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 Okay.
But then it became so difficult to pronounce, which, by the way, was by design. I thought it was funny to make it.
Thank you. I was wondering, either it's because you thought it was funny or because I'm missing something.
No, he's definitely messing with people.
Okay.
We eeventually truncated it to Gish.
Yes,
so you could say that and get away with it.
Thank you. Thank God. The Gish is where you challenge hundreds of thousands of people in over 110 countries to create art. Create positive mayhem. I love that term. And create a lasting difference in the world. Now, Gish participants, and they've raised millions. They've amassed, this is my favorite part, 8 Guinness world records.
Yeah, that's incredible.
8 Guinness, including, and this is just a few of them.
Yeah.
And I'm only reading this again because it makes me smile. It makes me happy. The largest online photo album of hugs, 108,120.
Incredible.
The largest chain of safety pins, 3,583 feet.
Like you do.
The largest gathering of people dressed as French maids, 695.
That's like your dream come true.
You couldn't quite make it to 700 there, man. That's just a shame.
Yeah, I know.
The
It is a
longest
shame.
human chain to pass through a hula hoop, 572. How stupid, how fun, how ridiculous, and how lovely.
Yeah.
Well, listen, it wasn't all positive and without consequence. And I'll explain
Okay.
why I'm saying that. First of all, there were people who went to jail participating in Gish.
Oh,
there
my.
were people who were court-martialed. There were people who were injured, unfortunately.
Okay.
And one day I decided it would be great if we could break the Guinness World Record of breaking the most Guinness World Records in a day, which was the day that we did the French maids, the hula hoop, and the decorated hats. Unfortunately, Guinness, while conceding personally to me that they, to their knowledge, didn't know of anyone who had broken 3 Guinness World Records in one stretch of 3 hours, they wouldn't give me a 4th record on the record breaking.
Wow.
But it was a hot day in Seattle.
Okay.
And I had told people to congregate dressed as French maids with decorated hats. And the only place that we could find very affordably was a high school gymnasium. It was the summertime. And it was like a record-breaking heat wave. It was, for Seattle, very hot. It was like almost 90 degrees and very humid. And this gymnasium did not have air conditioning and really no ventilation to speak of. And I was coming over from the San Juan Islands and I missed my ferry. So I was late and everyone was in there waiting for me in this hot, packed in, shoulder to shoulder in this hot gymnasium on the hottest day of the year.
Yeah.
And I didn't plan ahead, so I didn't have water for people or anything like that. And I got there and everybody was dripping, all of these French maid costumes were drenched in sweat. And I did this yay, everybody, isn't this fun? And we did what we needed to do to get the record for the French maids. Everybody took a photo together, and then everybody donned their decorative hats, took another photo, and then people were starting to get a little woozy. And some of the other people who were helping me put this together were like, Misha, I think we got to pull the plug. This is not good. People are not feeling well. It's too hot. We didn't have water. And the plan was now to do the longest human chain passing through the hula hoop, which is basically everybody has to stand in a giant circle. There's almost 700 people standing in a circle holding hands, and they open the chain at one point and let a hula hoop in, and then you have to pass the hula hoop over your arms, over your head, over your legs, without letting go of the next person, and so on. And you have to keep the chain in order to get the record.
Yeah,
we had
of
to
course.
make a video recording and show that this chain remained unbroken in its entirety as the hula hoop gets passed along this chain.
Okay.
Now, we had gone outside from this hot box of the gymnasium into this big field where we were just under direct sun and still no water. And everybody's holding hands and passing this hula hoop. And somebody can't stand up. She folds onto the ground.
Oh, no.
And she's passing in and out of consciousness. But the people next to her don't want to let go of her hands. And so somebody calls 911. Long story short, we had 7 ambulances show up. 7 people had heat stroke in the process. And I spent the next day on the phone with people, talking to them and having recovered. Fortunately, everyone was okay.
Okay.
I mean, this is like the Fire Festival of charitable events.
Yeah.
That's right. And shockingly, no one sued me. I don't know why. By the way, there's an open invitation out there. Anybody out there who's still harboring a grudge about this, you probably should sue, because that was a completely irresponsible occasion. But we did have a lot of fun, and sometimes we pushed the boundaries a little bit and created mayhem. There was an item that I took particular joy in, so it was kind of like a scavenger hunt. But one of the items was that I had put in the scavenger hunt was get one of the it turns out the astronauts on the space station International Space Station have the capacity to communicate with the ground, and they also have social media accounts, right?
Yes.
So the instruction was to get an astronaut on the International Space Station to hold up a sign with your team name on it, because these are teams in the scavenger hunt. And so people started flooding the social media channels of these astronauts with these requests. And NASA posted on their official Twitter feed, we understand that you're participating in this game, but please understand that our astronauts have real work to do. Please leave them alone.
Yeah.
And NASA just shut it down. So
understandable, really.
Next year, I wrote another item, which was last year, NASA told us to leave their astronauts alone. We know that they've been kicking themselves all year for missing out on the fun. So here's your assignment for this year. Get Gishwez written in space. And that year, William Shatner happened to be participating as a participant in this scavenger hunt. And he got in touch with NASA to try to get his team to get the points to get Gish written in space.
Because if any going to make it happen.
Because we were a private company and NASA is public, it's like completely forbidden for them to do any kind of like cross-pollination.
Sure.
So it had to go, this had to go up to the director of NASA. The director of NASA had to approve this. And they officially named a mountain on Mars Gishwez.
All right.
And NASA then posted on their Twitter channel that we have officially named a mountain on Mars Gishwez, and they like show it like written in laser lettering on the mountain. It was a pretty triumphant moment.
You had to be almost, at times laughing more than other times, but laughing at this whole thing.
Yes.
This was all, I mean, it's a very good cause, but it's so funny.
Yeah, I know.
It's so funny.
And you can just imagine like that communication director at NASA. It's like, okay, we called this mountain Gishwez. Now will you leave us alone?
And by the way, and also, can you tell us how to spell it?
Yeah. Well, okay, so we understand you've at least temporarily pumped the brakes on that, but you have not stopped one iota in your efforts to sort of just try and find these ways to make a positive difference, but also show people a good time, all in the spirit of fun. You know, how can we work together to participate in something that is a way to give back? And that's one of the reasons. I mean, that's the main reason why we wanted to talk to you today, Misha, because you're just
prepping for this. That's why I kind of opened up the interview saying I would be hard pressed to find someone who's living their best life better than you. I'm just so proud of you. Don't even know you very well. I've never met you until today, but I'm so happy for you, and I'm so happy for the people that get you and doing all these wonderful things in the spirit that they're doing them.
So, Misha, if fans of your work, whether it's on Supernatural or just your natural impulse to not just put scares but put love into the universe, if people want to support what you hope to continue accomplishing with Random Acts, how can they do that? Should they go to randomacts.org?
Yeah, randomacts.org is a great place. We have just recently updated our website, so it is a pretty good resource for checking out what we've done in the past and what we're working on now.
Fantastic.
The best way for people to communicate with me about activation in the world and getting involved in the specific projects that I am involved with is to actually text me. I communicate specifically about specific projects that I'm working on with people over text, so I can share that number.
Please do.
Which is 323-405-9939.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm working on right now. I'm about to have a call with Eric Kripke. We're doing this event next. Actually right before this podcast will air, we'll have done this. So but we're doing some work to help get Kamala Harris elected. And I don't know how much you guys talk about politics on your podcast, but whatever end you are on of the political spectrum, I really think that the single most impactful thing that we can do in the world is actually get people elected who represent our worldviews and our values. because there are so many more resources that are brought to bear by the federal government than by all of the other nonprofits combined. There's, privately we can dicker in the margins. We can make incremental progress doing nonprofit work and good creative work in the world. But the truth is, there is a tremendous amount of power and a tremendous amount of resources that are held by elected officials, and the only power we have over them is at the ballot box.
That's right.
Well, I think I speak for my partner. We couldn't agree more with you.
Without question. So listen, we're going to drop the randomacts.org website link on our website at begoodhumanspodcast.com along with your text. So we can also text you at night. Like, are you up? So we'll have all that information.
I also want to mention before we say our goodbyes, and this has nothing to do with Random Acts, but in preparation and trying to get to know you through prepping for this episode, Misha, I saw that you wrote a book, and I'm a book of poems, and just the description of the poems that I said I was intrigued. So I bought it. I bought it 3 days ago, and I've been through all of them, but now I'm rereading them, and some of them are so special. So I'm wanting to suggest to those who like this sort of thing, and when I say this sort of thing, you have no idea what I mean, because they made me happy. They made me warm. They made me laugh. Kind of like what the man you've met today, in his poetry and his insights and his memories. The book is called Some Things I Still Can't Tell You. I highly, highly recommend.
Please check that out. Please go to randomacts.org. Please text him in the middle of the night. Misha, thank you so much.
And please, one more thing. In just a few days, if you are an American, go to the polls and vote.
Yes.
Absolutely. Please. Misha, thank you not only for scaring the bejesus out of millions of us and entertaining the hell out of us, but more than that, thank you for truly inspiring us with all of your efforts to bring just some genuine kindness and fun to the world. You are one hell. See what I did there? He's a dark angel. You are one hell of a good human. Thank you for joining us, my friend.
Thanks for all your kindness, gentlemen.
Be good humans, be good humans, be good humans, or we will think you suck.
This was one of those guests that was exactly like I hoped he'd be.
So true.
With the humor and with the energy and with it, it was I just couldn't be more pleased with that guy.
Yeah, I know. And considering we started talking about things that scare the bejesus out of us, like I wound up feeling kind of genuinely entertained. Like that guy's an amazing guy, and he's really doing the right thing, and he's doing the kind of thing, as you rightfully called out, that we are hoping to do here.
True.
So we're going to continue doing that.
What is that?
Oh.
I don't
That's
know.
so annoying.
We're gonna have to do that.
Are you following us on the socials? Please do. On Facebook and Instagram and all that stuff, Threads and TikTok. But most importantly, go to our website, begoodhumanspodcast.com. We're gonna have the links, like we said, to randomacts.org and Misha's personal text number.
Nice.
I don't know.
And we'll try to get you NASA's.
Yeah,
through that. Listen, happy Halloween. Be safe, of course. And now, are you still in your neighborhood giving out candy and dressing up?
It's too quiet, and I think my neighborhood creeps kids out. So we never get the traffic. We put out an honor bowl, but
it's all the pentagrams and stuff that you've painted on your house.
Okay, I'm never going to live that down.
Oh my God!
I know. But what are you going to do? I was a teenager. Thank you for joining us. Happy Halloween, and we will see you next time.
Be good humans, everybody. Bye-bye. Be safe.
Be good humans, be good humans, be good humans, or we will think you suck.
Be Good Humans is executive produced by Brian Phelps, Trey Calloway, and Grant Anderson, with associate producers Sean Fitzgerald and Clementine Calloway, in partnership with Straw Hut Media. Please like, follow, and subscribe, and remember, be good humans.